What comes next? That's what people are asking about the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border now that the federal government is preparing to end a policy that turned away migrants over the last 2 years on the basis of preventing the spread of COVID.
Our Stephanie Jimenez live along the border wall in the Rio Grande Valley with more. Stephanie, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says the U.S. has a plan to deal with the end of Title 42. Does he think they're prepared for what could be a massive surge of people?
So, Steve, the answer to that is a bit mixed, and I'll tell you why. Yes, in fact, Homeland Security does have a plan to deal with an influx of migrants should Title 42 end next week. However, it's impossible to predict exactly what is going to happen should Title 42 end. So right now what they're doing is making preparations to make sure that Customs and Border Protection agents are able to deal with more migrants trying to cross the U.S.-Mexico border. So that's exactly why the Secretary is here in the Rio Grande Valley right now. He's been meeting with Customs and Border Protection agents. And now when he spoke with those agents, they asked flat out for two things: manpower and equipment to deal with that possible surge. Should Title 42 end, immigration officials say that they're going to vaccinate the migrants who are in custody, add 600 additional CBP agents to the border, and also increase the capacity of federal holding centers from 12,000 people to 18,000. Now, if you do notice one thing, it's that I've been saying the word if Title 42 ends. And that's because there's a court battle. A federal judge may tell the Biden administration that they can't end Title 42 next week. Now, we asked Secretary Mayorkas what's going to happen if that happens. And here's what he said. Listen.
It is our responsibility to abide by a court order, and the options that will be available to us will be determined by the Department of Justice, the legal representative. That is a legal analysis. And of course, it may depend on what particularly is the reasoning of the court underlying the decision that the court makes.
Now back out live here. So basically what that means is that we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Obviously, there's a very powerful debates on both sides of this issue. We know that Civil Rights Act advocates have been saying that Title 42 should be lifted. Our Alicia Barrera is live in Hidalgo with that part of the story. And Alicia, what these advocates are saying is that this really comes down to fairness for them, right?
Exactly. So we spoke to two organizations, the Texas Civil Rights Project, which is based here in Texas, and then we also spoke to an organization that focuses more on a national level. They're the Southern Poverty Law Center. And these organizations, when it comes to Title 42, they say they don't want an open borders policy. What they're asking for is that these asylum seekers actually have a chance to present their case in front of a federal judge. Even with Title 42 still in effect, undocumented immigrants continue to enter the U.S. However, advocates say they're stripped of one basic right, applying for asylum.
It doesn't mean they get to stay. It just means give them a chance to apply, and if they qualify, they get to stay. If they don't qualify, they may be deported. And Title 42 gets rid of all of that.
Efren Olivares is the Immigrant Justice Deputy Legal Director for Southern Poverty Law Center.
We seek justice for immigrants, constitutional rights, human rights, the rights enshrined in our statutes and our laws, just so they be respected.
While those in favor of the policy say there is no room or resources for more undocumented immigrants in the U.S., Laura Peña with the Texas Civil Rights Project points to the treatment of Ukrainian refugees.
And so not only should the Ukrainians be treated that way, but we need to create the new normal for the border and make sure that Black, Indigenous, and Brown migrants also have access to those fair opportunities.
An opportunity, she says, for migrants waiting in Mexican sister cities like Reynosa and Matamoros to get out of harm's way.
We know these border towns are also very dangerous.
So what about the security plans come Monday for these homeowners, business owners, again, along the Rio Grande Valley, specifically on the border? Well, we asked them and they said that come Monday, they really don't plan on doing things much differently. They're always vigilant. So really they're leaving that in the hands of Border Patrol and other agents here along the border. Stefania, back to you.
Alicia, thank you for that. So Alicia mentioned Monday several times. That is the day that everybody is watching because that is when Title 42 is scheduled to end. However, there is a chance that that may not happen. Why? We have 24 states, including our own state of Texas, they're in a federal courtroom right now. They filed a lawsuit against the federal government to prevent the federal government from ending Title 42 when it's scheduled to end next week. As I just told you, that may not happen. The judge in this case specifically, is sitting before a federal judge in Louisiana, and that judge may decide that Title 42 is supposed to stay in place. The word is that we should hear from that judge before the end of this week. For now, we're live along the border in the Rio Grande Valley. Stefania Jimenez, KSAT 12 News.
A lot of moving parts involved, Stephanie, including thousands of people on the other side of the border that just want to give themselves up on U.S. soil. We'll see you tonight on the Night Beat at 6:30. Thank you. By the way, the ins and outs of Title 42, we've been talking about that a lot. It's actually a topic we've covered on KSAT Explains. That episode is available now online or by scanning this QR code on your screen. We're going to break down what Title 42 is, its connections to the COVID pandemic, and more.